Kinhank, the famous company for selling these 12 terabyte retro gaming hard drives, has unexpectedly, but makes sense, jumped into the handheld retro gaming game. And as we see here, this is a very familiar looking device here. Love the atomic purple color. The shell's got these nice little bumps on there, crispy buttons, a really good size screen. I haven't even taken off the plastic yet. You got a little plastic protection there. 35XX next to it to kind of compare. As you can see, same size screen, similar resolution, similar specs, but just slightly bigger, especially if you have a bigger hand and it has those analog sticks. Now I know they make a device like this which has the analog sticks added onto it. So like I said, it's a very familiar looking setup. You will have it filled up with Emulate, so that is going to be the front end of choice. And as far as the specs on this machine, let's go ahead and throw them up on your screen here. But basically, it's going to struggle in around the Dreamcast and N64 area. Super Nintendo, PlayStation, Nintendo DS should play just fine. Comes with a 64 gigabyte SD card. My initial thoughts are, I love Kinhank because they always push the price. Now the other handhelds out there also push the price down. So with that being said, you know, I welcome the change and I welcome new competitors into the space. Let's just have a look at what we have here. We got a volume up and down button on the left side of the device. On the top of the device, you do not have an HDMI out, but you do have a USB OTC. And so you can put a little hub there and put this on your big screen TV. You have the headphone jack and the USB-C charging port. You can see the battery in this thing. It is big, really, really big battery there on the back there. Back of the device, it got, like I said earlier, it has these big humps, which actually make it way more comfortable to hold, you know, than this one. It's actually really nice. I love, especially somebody with big hands. I'm really digging the bumps on the back as far as comfort, longer periods of gaming. You have the function button, start, select, analogs. As far as the buttons themselves, or we haven't really even finished the sides here. You have the SD card. It's just a generic card. It's 64 gigabyte. They might make it with different models. We'll see. The 64 gigabyte. Let's just check here really quick. There should be a place where we can go to all games in the beginning over here. But it does come preloaded. All games 16,545. Now, you have a reset button, power button. Okay, that's all you have on the left side. Bottom, you have the speaker grate. Not sure if it's a mono or stereo speaker. If I had to guess, it's probably going to be mono. It does come pre-installed with background music. I just turned that off for now. And you got this LED light that changes all kinds of colors. Back of the device, like I mentioned, I like the humps. Hump it up. And then there's a little warning on here. It is a 3,500 milliamp battery, so that's going to get you some pretty good battery life. And then it can do 5 volts at 1.5 amps. The name of this model, again, is the K36. And then it says make sure you appropriately charge this thing so it doesn't explode. Back buttons are very crunchy. They are crunchy, crunchy, crunchy. Very similar to these. Crunchy, about the same amount of decibels as far as noise. Now let's check out the other areas here. You can notice that the D-pad is much larger here, which is nice. And then the start and select buttons are slightly larger. Function buttons larger. A, B, X, Y buttons are actually smaller on the K36. And then, like I said, the D-pad is bigger, but then you also have these analog sticks, which are pretty similar. I would guess all these companies are using the same analog sticks. And as you see there, it works on the screen. The buttons themselves, height-wise, give you an idea. Slightly higher. Very, very slightly higher up. Okay. Does it fit in your pocket? Let me just check that really quick. Yes, it does. Although these analog sticks do kind of stick out just a little bit. And then with these humps, it does mess with the pocketability.
Alright, so this is going to play your retro games just fine. Here we are. we have Super Mario Brothers 3. You heard the speaker there. Sounds great. The zoom on my camera is a little off, but as you can see here, 0 lag. You can play it with your D-pad or your analog sticks, and it looks great and plays really well. So no complaints whatsoever. Remember, this is running Emulate, so you can run it on different emulators. You could change your controls. You can do all kinds of things like that. So now that we're in the gameplay section of the video, I also like to start talking about the device itself. One of the biggest downsides of this device is what it's lacking is both a mini HDMI, although it does have OTC, but also the connectivity. It does not have Wi-Fi. It does not have Bluetooth. So hooking up external controllers and transferring and editing files on the fly is not nearly as good. I think they anticipated this by getting the price point lower, and that's why they did it. But they also give you a little dongle in the box, a little USB dongle, so you can put your SD cards directly into your computer and add and remove ROM. So I think they kind of anticipated that to get the price down super cheap. And price is the next big deal on this thing, is that it is super cheap. I think at the time of recording it's at 55. Who knows what kind of deals or recordings they're going to do, any kind of deals or price reductions they're going to do throughout the years or the months even. We shall see. But it's super cheap for a little Game Boy preloaded device.
He's got the grabber. He's got the chain. Oh, second.
So the price is right, in my opinion. I think a lot of people who are going to watch my channel are going to say this thing is lacking in the power department. And a common complaint with Kinhank is that they have ROM duplicates. That was Game Boy Advance, by the way, running just fine. And then here we have Nintendo DS. A lot of complaints Kinhank was, they have a lot of duplicates, it's unorganized, the games don't load. I haven't found that to be the case on this one. Everything I've thrown at this seems to run, to load at least. You're going to see in a second here just the limitations of not Kinhank themselves, but just the limitations of this Rock chip processor and the 1 GB of RAM. And that's where, if you've been in the handheld game for any time at all, the options you have out there are just insane. So here's that lag for you. This is now a Thomas Wave Dolphin Blue. I'll let you hear it for a second. You can hear my son in the background, but it's very laggy, unplayable, the Thomas Wave. Here we have Sega Saturn Darius, and playable. You're going to find the Sega Saturn collection laggy, a little laggy, but playable. I wouldn't call this playable, but I mean, this is just one game. Some of them are more playable than others, but this is where it gets a little dicey. And then even Dreamcast, Crazy Taxi, although Crazy Taxi is one of those games that are a little bit more, take a little bit more horsepower. Some of the other Dreamcast games ran just fine, so about half the Dreamcast catalog there as well. But you can see here the Crazy Taxi. I was having a hard time with my controls there, figuring out which back buttons were gas and brake, but yeah, there you go. Okay, now here we have PlayStation. Now Bloody Roar 2 is one of the harder to emulate games, and you can see it's a little laggy for sure. But the minute we go over to WrestleMania over here, is running at 100%, no issues whatsoever. So this is really where the limitations are in the video, which is, MAME, all the arcade games are going to run fine, the non-3D arcade games, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, the portables. It's just going to get, when you get into, really high-end PlayStation, Sega Saturn, Dreamcast, and some Nintendo 64. And that's to be expected. At this price point, you're not going to get a portable system that's going to run these games anyway. So like I said, for the price point, it's right in line with what you would expect. Now, if you want something, there's so many retro consoles out there, and this is cool that this is their first box. I'm sure they might go into a little higher end, now that they've been experimenting with this a little bit. But for now, they have some big limitations there. So final thoughts are, if you've been in the retro handheld game for any amount of time and you already have one, and you have one that's more powerful than this, there's no reason to buy this unless you want like a cheap extra one or you want to give somebody a gift. And that's really where I think this falls into place, is somebody doing it on a budget, somebody buying it for a friend who hasn't got into this yet, because they're going to be blown away by this device. But the people who've been spoiled in the industry for a while, and there's some really tricked out devices out there now for, maybe only around $100 or so, you can really get a lot more for your money. But at this price point, it's pretty good. There's not a lot of duplicates. It works out of the box and has some interesting features. But like I said, it doesn't lacks Wi-Fi. You only get the 64 gigs of games, and there's just more powerful devices out there that'll play more systems. So that's what I think. Let me know what y'all think. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and catch you on the next one.